The Labor Party condemns in the strongest terms possible the attack at Kabul airport. This was a despicable act, an evil act, an act which has left dead or injured civilians who are seeking a better life and those who are brave enough to go to help them. We grieve with our American allies, and I today rang the US Chargé here in Australia, and I expressed to him privately what I now express publicly on behalf of the opposition, which is our deepest condolences to the families and friends of those brave Americans who have been lost. We also thank the United States. Without the United States, and of course without the United States working with Australians, and of course also with the United Kingdom, the evacuation of Australians, citizens, permanent residents, and those who have been granted visas or were seeking them would not have occurred. So we acknowledge publicly the strong support from across every part of our community and across our parliament, and our thanks to the United States for their work in this operation and for their support in the evacuation to safety of Australians. We are greatly relieved that our personnel from the ADF, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and other departments are safe. I thank the government for providing the briefing they provided today to the opposition leader and senior shadow ministers. This is a deeply sad time for all who have worked for a better Afghanistan. We do remain gravely concerned for Australian citizens and visa holders who remain in Afghanistan. And I again echo the request from the Foreign Minister to follow this travel advice and to ensure, if you are in Afghanistan, to register with DFAT. Labor will continue to seek updates from the Morrison government as to what this means for the operation going forward. I'm happy to take questions on this, and then my colleague, Mr Butler, will respond in relation to National Cabinet and the various announcements the Prime Minister made this morning.
Do you have any information about Australians or Australian visa holders who may have been caught up in the blast, and are you concerned there may be more?
As yet, as I understand, the government is working. Well, let's start from the beginning. I understand from what the government has said, and is that Australian personnel are safe, and we're relieved about that. As yet, the government is still working through gaining the information as to the status of Australian citizens, permanent residents, and visa holders and applicants. And I'm not in a position to update on that until the government does.
What have you said to the government about the operation and whether or not it should resume?
Well, the decision to conclude the operation is a decision that the government has made on the basis of the circumstances on the ground. The circumstances on the ground are demonstrably extremely difficult and extremely risky, and so it is, I think, a legitimate decision for a government of the day to make decisions as to the safety of Australian personnel.
Should we have, what's your position on engaging with the Taliban? Do you think we should?
Well, obviously the United States, both under President Trump but also more recently in relation to the withdrawal of US forces, has been engaging with the Taliban. I think we know that Australia, the United States, allies and partners are going to have to work together to deal with an Afghanistan which whatever the shape of the government is going to have, if not be led by, certainly substantially led by the Taliban. Obviously, there are implications for global security and regional security. We will have to work through with our allies and partners.
What about dealing with them to work on the threat of ISIS now?
Well, yeah, I think that goes to the point I made. I'm not going to get into commentary today, but as you, I think, are referencing, the despicable attack today has been claimed by ISK, and I'm sure that governments, around the world, will consider the implications for regional and global security, not only of a Taliban-led government, but of the consequences of today's attacks.
The government says it's moved into post-evacuation phase. What do you think this means?
Well, I think it means that the government has made a decision to move to a phase where it looks to assisting any Australians, PRs and visa applicants or holders through the international bodies such as the IOM and the UNHCR.
The South Australian Premier said today that more people would be arriving here to South Australia from Afghanistan. Do you have any information about how that would take place?
No, I understand from what has been said publicly and also from information provided that the states and territories have been working with the federal government on how to place those individuals who have arrived from Afghanistan in recent days. So I assume that is part of this process, and I think that is a good thing, and I acknowledge the work of the states and territories on that front.
Senator, should we ask the US to bring out Australian citizens?
Well, the United States, this is we've just had US personnel who have died seeking to secure passage for people, and these are highly difficult circumstances. I would anticipate that our government is working very closely with the United States now and has been in order to enable the evacuation of Australian citizens and PRs and visa holders. I would note, however, that the Foreign Minister yesterday made clear that the advice from the Department of Foreign Affairs was to not travel to the airport.
And did Australia act too late? Did the government act too late?
Look, I have spoken about this for some time. Our position our position on this has been consistent and clear, but I don't think today is a day that I wish to reflect on this.
Senator, the government said the slow nature of visa processing has been due to security risk. Is this a real concern, or is the government has it been dragging its feet?
Well, I'm not sure whose comments you're referencing on that front, but there have been a great many visas, as I understand the public communication, there's been a great many visas granted in recent days.
Minister Dutton has made comments to that effect.
Previously. Well, we would also always expect that national security concerns were addressed when considering visas.